when I reviewed the Borderlands movie, I came at it from the point of view of a disappointed fan, let's be honest. But I realised I'd never talked about the games on the channel, and I'm not going to talk about every single one. I think that would be very annoying for the next few weeks for anyone who isn't a fan of that game series. But I'm mainly going to focus on Borderlands 3, but I think because I've never talked about the others, I will briefly talk about them as we go through. And it is a game series that I've replayed recently because Borderlands 4 was announced, so I was like, well, let's remind myself of things that I might need to remember going into that. I'd forgotten about Scooter, for example, and things like that, so I needed those reminders. But I've enjoyed playing through most of them, and I acknowledge that, particularly the early one, the first one, the humour was very not advanced, let's say, and that's still retained in later games, but there have been more mature elements introduced. There's been a gradual sort of growing up, and to me, growing up isn't about never having fun ever again, and never having childlike moments, but it's about balancing that out with real heavy stuff, unfortunately, that comes with adulthood. And I think that that's something that the Borderlands games have shown. They still lean more on the silly, granted, but there has been this increase in the heart of it. I think the big one that most of us will probably remember is the DLC, which then got spun off in its own title, The Assault on Dragon's Keep from Borderlands 2. Because during that game, Roland, one of the Vault Hunters from the first game, is killed. And, it's a heavy moment. If you've played the first game, you obviously have that bigger connection, but even still, the way it's done in-game, you understand why this person matters to these other people. And it is a heavy moment that needs to sit there for a bit. And so the DLC comes around, and you sort of flash back, and Tiny Tina's doing like the in-universe version of D&D, Bunkers and Badasses. And everyone's going like, she's like, oh, we'll wait for Roland. Yeah, he's not coming. And throughout the DLC, you learn that she knows that. But her backstory is, quite horrific. As a child, she had very awful things happen, which has probably had the impact on her psyche that we see her as today, this crazy girl. It comes from somewhere. It's trauma. It's probably not really processed trauma, because this kind of universe is a very hard place to live, even if you've not got things going on. That is made very apparent. It's a dystopia. Absolutely. But she knows it. She acknowledges it, even if she doesn't want to. And that moment in the DLC where it all goes into this dark thing, and it's that moment of that raw, I know he's not coming, just let me have a moment to pretend, because I can't face the truth. That's a moment that you don't expect from this looter shooter with over-the-top characters and kills and weird creatures and pointless toilet humour sometimes, let's be honest. It just really came out of nowhere in a lot of ways, and I loved the fact that it went there. Handsome Jack, on paper, just a big, larger-than-life caricature kind of villain, but again, through echologs, through other games exploring his backstory, etc., you understand he was just trying to do what's right, or what he felt was right. We're all the heroes in our own story, and that's unfortunately taken to a ridiculous level in Jack because of, again, things that have happened to him. I'm not saying that those things excuse the behaviours, but it gives a reason that those behaviours might exist. So Borderlands 3, it's one of those that was quite annoying, because you could play earlier games without necessarily playing the previous entries. You'd miss some in-references and things like that, but you could probably play them without too much issue. The issue I have with Borderlands 3 is you need to have played Tales, because Reese does not matter to you otherwise. You don't understand who this guy is and why he's in charge. That's one of the things I'm not a massive fan of, but that's why I'm playing new Tales before Borderlands 4, because it's probably going to lead into it. Even if people don't like it, they're still going to probably find ways to shoehorn characters in. But one of the things that I loved about Borderlands 3 is it had moments of these deeper elements, these explorations of character and the losses they've had, etc., whilst also having the fun, gunplay, etc. The real highlight to me, because I suppose I've got to, because I'm talking about Borderlands 3, the villains, Troy and Tyreen, the Calypso twins, are annoying on purpose. I think around release everyone's like, oh my god, these people are awful. That's the point. It's like how if people watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and their takeaway is like, oh, I can't watch this because these people are awful. That's the point. But they are used as a tool to show what some people are like and kind of make fun of people like that. You're not meant to like the people in Always Sunny in the same way. And like I say, that's, I think, the thing with the... I mean, it's not the same with the Calypso twins. There's no redeeming elements to them in a way, but given what they're meant to be a parody of, it works. If you were annoyed by the Calypso twins, the job was done right. And then, of course, tying them into the original Vault Hunter, Typhon de Leon, and Tannis's obsessive nature around him as well. Tying all that together, though, is beautiful. It's sort of like the now and the past and the present sort of coming together. And I have no issue with that element. It's like I say, they're just not great characters, and I don't want to dwell on them too much. Half of the reason I did this video is because, like I said, I was going through the DLCs, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed, I think, in Borderlands 3. The DLCs really worked quite well for me. I know everyone's different. I mean, maybe not the first one, the Handsome Jack thing, the jackpot, the heist. That doesn't click as well as Guns, Love and Tentacles, because I love Hammerlock and his relationship with Wainwright. And this idea of like getting cold feet, around a wedding, but taken to an extreme level with like this kind of Lovecraftian vibe on top of it. Plus Aaron Hansen versus Mancubus, which is, I can't unhear it. It's Aaron Hansen to me, it's not Mancubus, but still, I enjoyed it. And then Bounty of Blood, again, it didn't quite hit in the same way, although I do love the fact that Borderlands has always kind of felt like a space western in a lot of ways, kind of like Firefly is. It's kind of got that vibe. These are frontier towns, these planets or whatever. They're little frontier towns, there's banditry in between, and danger around every corner. But you've got these little oases where, civilization has sprung up. Borderlands has always had that vibe, but this is now a whole planet, Gehenna, with that vibe to it. Plus some awful creature thing going on, because that's always the base of a Borderlands game. But then we have Psycho Krieg and the fantastic Fustercluck. I made sure to say that correctly. And because obviously the death of Maya, was one of those sore points that people had. A lot of people did not like the fact they killed off Maya. They would have preferred Ava, and blame her for it. But again, I'm not going to get into that. It's like, I see those points, but I think there's a lot more at play here. But the fact that Krieg, as one of Borderlands 2's, yes, DLC, but he was still a Vault Hunter technically of that era. So we can understand that they might have built a connection, and he did have a thing for her, and she seemed to understand him, even though psychos, and I use that term because that's what the game uses. I know if people don't like that term, that's your perspective, but I'm using the term that the game uses just for ease of understanding. But because he's got that background, and his inner thoughts don't always match what he's saying, the fact that she can see through that and understand what he's getting at is a connection he's not felt with other people. And through the DLC, we get more exposure to like the sane side of his mind, the bit that is trying to say these deep things. And you see this pair of the actual sort of insane and sane sides of his persona as you're in like his mindscape, and you see this conflict, this inner turmoil, what counselors would call incongruence, a mismatch between the sides of the self. And you see that played out as you realise that both of them are actually grieving Maya and don't want to process that. It's very much akin to the assault on Dragon's Keep, and I don't know if they used that as a basis and went, you know what, let's redo that, but another crazy character basically. But whether they used it as a baseline or not, whether it was entirely just not even a thought, they're like, oh yeah, like maybe it was after the fact, like it's kind of a bit similar, oh well, I don't mind if that's the case, because it still works here. Seeing him have this clash in his mind that you help him go through and process, so that he's actually kind of like, do you know what, I want, like the sane part throughout is like, I'm going to help him deal with all this, and then I can get out of his brain. We can find a way of transporting me out, so like there's a sane Krieg actually out in the world, and the insane Krieg can carry on doing whatever he wants to do. But at the end, one of the most beautiful moments, again, as a counselling student, as someone who was training to help people do a similar thing, if not in this fantastical way, but it's that beautiful moment he goes, no, I'm staying, it's fine. I realise I need to be here for him. This is kind of what he's been trying to tell me. He doesn't want us to be separate. He knows that I'm a good tempering force, and I know that I should be there for him. I care for that side of me as much as I care for this side of me. So I'm going to stay here, and we're going to make a life going forward. We're going to deal with our grief over Maya. We're going to move forward healthy and more congruent, as the opposition to incongruence. If you look at Borderlands as, a looter shooter, You just kill a bunch of stuff. There's a kind of story to guide you where to go. You're not going to get everything out of it. That's really what this video is about. Borderlands as a series, and Borderlands 3, particularly that final DLC. I say final DLC, the takedowns I don't count. But all of this shows that there is a maturity, there is an understanding that they can tell deeper stories. And I can only hope that Borderlands 4 leans more into this side. I'll still play it, I'll still enjoy it, I'm fairly sure. But I would love to see more character depth. I don't want it to turn into, some big, soap opera style, the human element matters more than the gameplay. That should never be the case. Gameplay should always be king in a game. But I think, leaning into this more mature style, it doesn't harm it. In fact, for me, it enhances it. And I'm cautiously optimistic, let's say. But that's my thoughts about Borderlands 3 and the series at large. Please let me know, if you enjoy the Borderlands without caring for the story. That's fine. Let me know either way. But next week I'm going to talk about something pretty heavy, but very interesting. So I hope you'll join me for that. But until then, as always, thank you for watching and take care.